We're live.
Take two.
That minute we had to reshift things. Hello, everybody. We're not going to wait too long here. I'm a little sweaty, so every time I get in a shower. But hello. It's been a long time since we've gone live.
It has been really, gosh, it was like winter time, I think, when we did it last. January.
I think January,
because you were doing the...
I was doing the
40 days in prosperity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, welcome.
9/11.
We are feeling, I told Heather in a meditation, I got a really clear, a clear whisper to go live with something specific we're going to share here in just a moment. But it just felt like as time was going on, it felt like today, on this day specifically, it felt right to just come live. It's been a while. To be honest with you, it's kind of freaky for us. We've been...
It feels like we're different
We've
people.
been kind of in a chrysalis, kind of a cocooning time during this COVID. Not that those of us that know us in the physical, we're actually meeting with people in the physical. But as far as social media, it just hasn't felt right to come out and be out here too much. We've been interviewed by Todd Medina, and we've been on various Ronnie Landis and various things when we've been asked to come out. But as far as our own platform, it's kind of been a quiet place.
I think we're just in such a growth mode. We're really bringing just a lot of the things that we've learned, in our soul journey into our bodies and our physical life. And it's, sometimes moving the mountains in the physical life takes a different kind of stamina and focus and clarity and partnership. And it's been a beautiful season for us. It feels like so much is moving, and there's an inner strength, with the outer world pressing in. It feels like it's catalyzed a lot of growth for us, as for so many else. We can see it in everybody.
Yeah,
a lot of love required.
There is a great shift happening. And it's happening uniquely in our life. You may have heard us talk a little bit about it, but we're 1 couple weeks into quite an extensive journey, about a 2-month journey with Bernhard Gunther and Laura Matsu, who we just adore. And if you watch this for whatever reason, we just send you our love. But we have said yes to going on a deep dive of embodiment, of individuating our soul, which hits on a fourfold path. It hits on all aspects. And for us, spirituality and emotionality, the emotional field, the mental field, relationship has been kind of our lane. It's been our path for a long time. And
I was going to be your little dabber.
To dab me?
I was going to little dab.
Are you gonna
Little
dab?
dab will do, yeah.
Little dab.
Just in case.
You got a drip, babe.
You got it. There you go. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries. Thanks for taking care of me, babe. So, we've been in a deep dive of just really embodying our spiritual life into our physical life. And so that's been a quiet time for us, but that's just a little update for us. We've been, for those that are watching our walls, our pages, you know kind of where we stand in this, crisis on planet Earth, a crisis of faith, a crisis of what's real, what's not real, what's truth, what's not truth. And we each are doing our best, and we know that. And we hold that compassionate place for you if you're watching this, and you may think differently than we do, or see this differently than we do. Just know that no matter what you see, no matter what you believe, we love you. And that's the reality. Because what I know, and I said this to my son, he said something to me, 2 weeks ago. We were having just a beautiful drop-in, and he said, "Dad, I know that you will love me no matter what I believe." And I said, "You're right." It made me cry, because he knows that my love for him is not based on what he believes, that he believes differently than we do, and that's okay. I'm not looking to make a clone. I always tell Jet, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to share it with you and model how to think. To ask questions, to question everything, to question everything. And so he knows in his soul that his Father loves him no matter what he believes. So I share that for you out there, that I love you no matter what you believe.
It's been such an interesting opportunity, I think, for everybody, especially in the last couple of days, to find where our common ground is in a way that we haven't needed to before. You know, I don't know if you've gone into Clubhouse at all, and other platforms where people...
I don't think everybody knows what Clubhouse is.
Well, Clubhouse, I was just going to say, or other apps that have conversations about what's going on. And so you can kind of drop into a live conversation and hear where people are at. And, you know, it's been an interesting gauge to just hear how people are all interpreting, you know, what's occurring in our world so differently. And what's common is that we love our families. We value and appreciate the peace that we've had in our country, and that we recognize that we're in a period of needing to shift some things, and we all need to do our best to take responsibility for places that we may have been a part of, you know, contributing, whether to its complacency or a lack of integrity or whatever that is. And you can feel that the push is really calling people to come together around our humanity and stop, you know, labeling each other and dividing because we're fearful of one position or another. I mean, there's way more than two positions, but it really is. It's inviting us to, like you said, babe, drop everything that we think we know and really ask questions from the heart. How can we be a blessing to the world during this time, and really rally together and move community.
Interesting word, unity.
Yeah, it's a
It's an interesting word, unity.
Yes.
Doesn't mean conformity.
That's right. Yes.
It means
yes.
individuated selves of the mighty one presence, the oneness and the multiplicity of that oneness.
Yeah. And we choose to
individuated,
unify.
so, yeah.
Choosing to unify.
So we're not going to sit there and pontificate a whole lot. We're going to just really, you know, I invited Heather to join me today because I feel this calling. I was going to go live just randomly, and I'm like, I just want to come. I want to come with you. I want us to come together to the world and open our voices together, because it's a beautiful thing, I think, to give a balance. But today, on this 9/11 day, this is an important day in our nation, on our planet. It deserves all kinds of observation and awareness. You know, and just a little quick, in 9/11, 2001, which is very interesting if you didn't know, on Neo's driver's license in the Matrix that launched in 1999, there's a date on his driver's license, and some of you may know it, but some of you this may blow your mind, but Neo it expires on 9/11, 2001. And so 9/11, 2001, you know, shifted the planet. It did something on this planet that it hit us in different places. And there was, for me, I left traditional Christianity, and I wasn't meditating, I wasn't praying, I wasn't going to church, I wasn't really courting a relationship with God in any way. I kind of had to leave all that and dive into my own way of being, no rules, no guidelines, just do whatever I felt called to do. You know, that was in 97. From 97 to 2001, those 4 years, I was living just by my own desires. But when the towers went down, something shifted inside, and I started seeking meditation. And when I meditated for the very first time, I wept, I cried. I was like, there you are, God, in my own room, lights out. I'm doing a Wayne Dyer manifestation through meditation. I'm just sitting there going, oh, my life is nothing more than the trail I've left behind. What drives my life today is the energy I generate in each of my present moments. Oh. And that vibration, that place opened up something, and life has never been the same since. And that's when, you know, this thing called the awakening began, and the 11/11 started showing up, and started understanding that there was a shift happening. There was a revolution of consciousness happening. there was a revelation happening where you start seeing things, you start waking up, you took the red pill, you go down the rabbit hole, all that kind of stuff. So 9/11, in these towers that went down, just catalyzed something for us. And so there is a great shift happening, and we understand that. There's a great need for something to happen, to change. We cannot go back to what we used to be. There's no way. Whatever we're wanting, we understand, a lot of us, there is no going back to normal, and not to cliche the new normal, whatever this is, but there's something coming up, it's burgeoning, it's calling us, and if we're stuck, we're going to suffer. And if we're not listening to the call of something that's calling us, each of us, to awaken to something, it's going to be a loop-to-loop. And I want to play something, and it's only 5 minutes, and I came across it. It's David Icke, and I've posted a couple times in a couple places, but I really invite you to listen with your heart and hear what this is called, a revolution that will change everything. One second, I'm going to put it on Bluetooth.
Something within me.
Because I know you can't hear it there. Talk to the people while I'm doing this.
Yeah, it was interesting yesterday, 2 days ago, I guess it was, when the last kind of announcement of our next phase of this, the mandates and everything, it was kind of one of the, I'm sure it was a collective taking a deep breath, and we could feel in here in a lot of conversations a lot of panic, and there was another video that came to us, I'm sure like all of you, we have all of these opportunities to kind of like get what Bernhard calls hopium. And sometimes, it's good to put all that stuff down, but there was a video that came in that really spoke to both of us, and it like connected a lot of dots, and sent it to a dear brother of ours, and somebody that has a very wide reach, somebody that Jason and I deeply, deeply respect. It was actually John St. Julian, and he sent a message back just as an incredible reminder, and I feel like this is just so aligned with even what John shared yesterday, that just to remind us that in the midst of all of this polarity and the change that's occurring because of a revealing of what's just been bubbling up underneath the surface, that to stay in a place and remind ourselves daily, hourly, if necessary, minute by minute, that the presence within us and that is holding all of this together, there's no surprise, and that this contrast and catalyst chaos is birthing us as we surrender into the experience. So I think are you ready?
Something within me, the something that's driven me on for 30 years, says no. There are some big surprises coming. And this cult is very vulnerable to people awakening to it, because its biggest source of power is, apart from human power being handed to it, is the fact that people aren't aware that it exists. But more and more people are becoming aware, but there's this transition that needs to take place where people cross the road.
I'm going to pause there for a second. I love that. There's a transition happening. We talk about in the community that we're with deeply, this time of transition that's been talked about, this great shift of the ages, this great awakening that's happening. And in that, it's going to be the book of Revelation talks about there's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth. There's going to be these things happening, and there's going to be, it's been called disclosure. There's going to be things that are revealed. The veil, the apocalypse, the veil is being pulled in this time of transition that we're going through, and it's going to be uncomfortable. If you're seeking comfort, I heard Satguru say something, to seek comfort is to seek death. To seek security is to seek death.
So true.
You know, and not death in a good way, because there's a good death, there's a good dying that we embrace, but to hold on to the known, to hold on to what we have believed, to hold on to the sight that we think we have seen, is again, it's going to keep you stuck. And so there is this cult that's been programming your mind for a very long time. And in 9/11, when something happened, something shifted, and I awoke to see this cult of personality, this cult of power, enslaving the minds. There's something so prophetic. You know, there's many people around go, The Matrix isn't a movie, it's a documentary. Mm-hmm. It's an understanding, and it's very auspicious that on 9/9, the trailer for Matrix 4, The Resurrections, came out, not by accident, in this holographic play that we're in.
Mm-hmm. And the same day that Joe Biden...
The same day that Biden put his hands around necks and said, look...
became a medical tyranny.
You know, and we're not going to talk a lot about that. That's not what we're here to go into a conversation. I think you kind of know where we stand. We see through the play, and...
I love that he said where humans give over their power. The only way, we ever give over our power is because we get put into fear that there's a consequence, that if we don't hand something over or that we don't go along with something, that there will be consequences, and so we hand it over willingly.
Mm-hmm. He's going to talk a little bit about that, but make no mistake, there is, I just posted, I think yesterday, David Whitehead, amazing brother. Yeah, he's got a 9-part series called The Cult of the Medics, and you understand, and I'm not going to go deep into that, but when you understand the power plays, the 300, right? The Club of Rome, and you go into understanding the powers that be that have gone into the medical cult, then you start waking up to other things. You understand big pharma, you understand big bank, you understand big tech, you understand big government, and you see how they're all playing together to basically, without getting to it, is cut the middle class out. And so when you wake up to that, you understand that you have to leave the shores of the known, and we talk about this in the chant we do, Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangate Bodhisoha. We're leaving, and we left a long time ago. I left the shores of the known. I left the shores of home. I left the shores of the accepted consensus consciousness a long time ago. And so in this time of COVID, it was just a cementing. I'm glad we're here. I'm grateful we're here in this time of transition. I'm grateful we're here in this evolutionary shift. And it's not going to be over by the end of the year. We're just getting warmed up. And so I'm going to let David, just a few minutes here. It's only a 5-minute video.
And that doesn't mean there has to be a violent revolution. There has to be a revolution of perception, because from that everything else comes. We live within a field of potentiality, a field of energy, vibration, which is all possibility. Everything that exists in this reality is a frequency. Every thought is a frequency. Every emotion is a frequency. And so if you believe that you are little me and you have no power, then that frequency band that is generated by that perception of self will interact with the field, and you will create a feedback loop that will appear to you to be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
So
you think you're
So I want to stop there. I spent time learning the metaphysical laws of the universe, studying to be a practitioner of religious science, and I'm grateful for that path. And there was this thing we learned about secondary causation, which means it's what David's talking about there is this feedback loop. Everything is done according to your faith, your beliefs. Jesus taught us. It is done according to you, which you choose to believe and embody and feel. And if you believe that this is a dangerous world, Einstein said the biggest decision you can make is whether you live in a friendly universe or a hostile universe. Now I know that I've been saying that, I've been feeling that, and I can tell you honestly, there have been times where I'm posting things because I'm in fear of a dystopian, a horrible slave planet. And I don't want to see that on my watch. I don't want to see that in my lifetime. I don't want to see that for my son. And so it moves me and motivates me, but it's seeing the world from a hostile place. And I can tell you that has motivated some things in my life. But when I know that I am the mighty I am within me, I am victorious in this life, I navigate, I congregate, I magnetize people, places, and things around that faith, that this is an amazing time to be alive. Mm-hmm. This is the moment. We are the ones. This is the time. This is it. That we have called ourselves to be here, available to be transducers, transformers, transcenders of an old paradigm that's awakening us, ascending us to a new, higher evolutionary way of being.
Yeah.
And it has to die. Everything around that's not that has to crumble, has to die. And we've known it.
Right.
And all these things that we're seeing, like I was watching with Heather yesterday, this Cult of the Medics, it's all been sitting there. How wonderful it is that we're now seeing it. And so he's talking about, this isn't a time of, the revolution that my forefathers, your forefathers were part of, was guns and getting out on the battlefield and bloodshed. I don't believe we need that. I don't believe that this country is going to go through that. It could happen. I'm not saying it won't happen. It could happen. But I believe in what David's saying. We need a revolution of perception. And that's what we're seeing. The veil, Oz behind the curtain is being seen.
This is so good because it's calling us, each one of us, and as we were talking about at the beginning, every single one of us has things behind the veil that we don't see. And what we've recognized is the people that are doing a lot of deep diving in their own realm are able to see it, and the grip of fear is not as tight. It keeps loosening when you realize that this plane of action, this reality, is only we're here for such a small period of time, and we put so much importance on this material incarnation. And when we have the realization that we can accept everything that our life has been, look at it for what it is, look at our pieces and the things that we don't want to see in ourselves, it's easier to see out here what needs to happen in order for the system to break down, just like it has in our own life. Mm-hmm. Each one of us has this journey that we go through, and we call it awakening, but it's really, it's a peeling off of all the layers, that the masks that we've been wearing for so long. And the more masks that we take off in our internal world and really are able to see ourselves clearly, we can see what's going on here, and the fear literally loses its power.
But remembering who you are, this has been, for those that have been part of a community that we were part of, we lived by this vision statement. Love only, forgive everything, and remember who you are. Who are you? What are you? What am I? Who am I? That's the proverbial question. It's always driving. Who am I? Who am I? What am I? What is this? And back to going to 9/11, it was 9/11, it was the catalyst of those towers going down. It was the catalyst of things starting to happen. I started meditating. I started understanding, why was I seeing 11/11 everywhere? Why was it? So I understood, you are, this term called light worker, right? I use that term very lightly because it's abused and overused. But truly, what does it mean to live as a grail, a chalice of God's love and light on the planet? That's what the 11/11 meant for me, to wake up, to live into that embodiment, which I knew because Christ had called me many years ago when I was a young 16-year-old teenager to follow him, to pick up my nets and follow him, as it says, to become a disciple of Jesus Christ. And I said yes to that back when I was 16 years old. Not because of my family, but because I had a calling that Jesus called. And I followed that, and I've continued to follow that, and we continue to follow that, what that truly means in truth, to live in your Christhood, to have the mind of Christ. And that's what the 11/11 has meant and continues to mean for me. But when you come into that, you raise your vibration. You truly do. David Hawkins' Power versus Force. You start working in a different frequency, in a different bandwidth, in a different vibration. And what that happens, and David talks about it here, you understand who and what you are.
For me, you have no power. You are experiencing a life of little me, I have no power. Not because it's true, but because you believe it is. And when you open your heart, you open your mind, and you re-self-identify from I am are labels to I am all that is, has been, and ever can be, having a brief experience, then your band of frequency explodes.
Yes.
both in its breadth and scale and in its frequency, and you start interacting with the field of possibility and probability at that level. And this is why when people go through this awakening process, they start to find that amazing synchronicities start to happen in their life that didn't happen before. Coincidences and bits of luck and things just happening when you need them, or meeting people in strange circumstances. My God, fancy seeing you here. Mm-hmm. And people look back and they think,
fancy
well, this
seeing
was
you here,
happening
Christo.
before. No, because you were interacting with a narrow band of frequency with the field of possibility, and that's what you were experiencing. Now suddenly you've started to awaken, you're interacting with the field in a completely different way, more expanded way, and now things that you can manifest in that feedback loop, fine detail, bits of luck, things happening just when you need them, meeting exactly the people you need to meet to expand your awakening, these suddenly start happening. They're not miracles, they're just that you are now interacting with the field at a completely different level. And so when you go through this process, and you do what you know to be right, and you do what you know to be right, never mind consequences, you do what you know to be right, that very nature of what you're doing is expanding your consciousness and expanding your interaction with the field. And so the consequences that you might have feared don't manifest because your interaction with the field is drawing to you what you need to achieve what you know to be right to happen.
That right there is like that. I think out of this whole video, that's what hit me the hardest, and like in such a good way. That when we take the responsibility in our life to integrate, to become what we say we are with what we are really inside and how we show up in life. And our life is just a journey of bringing those things, you know, it's in the Pistis Sophia, it talks about that our inner world becomes our outer world, and the upper becomes the lower, and the male becomes the female. We're in this process of bringing all of these things into alignment. We're finding in our own life, when you have courage to look at the things that you don't want to look at in your life, and this is where meditation is so powerful. To be able to do that, we have to have a healthy, compassionate detachment to our emotions about maybe what the conditions are that we've found ourselves in. You know, sometimes we've made decisions and now we're living out consequences it brings up emotions, it brings up fear. And so we're finding in our own life to detach our emotions, to be able to walk forward, to do what we know is right, the best that we can. Life just kind of has this way of bringing support, of winking and saying you're on the right path. But those consequences seem so daunting when we don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've said this quote during this whole time, since March 2020. One of my early teachers that I love is Ernest Holmes. And through this whole time, he said, you know, to desert truth in the hour of need.
Yes.
To desert truth. What do you know is truth? That you are God, that you are the presence, the allness, that you are part of that you're not the allness. When I say that you are God, please make no mistake. I'm not saying I am the allness of God. Yeah. But the allness of God, that God is, dwells within each one of us. That there is something that we are still waking up to as divine human beings, marrying heaven to earth, spirit and matter, father and mother, coming into these holy marriage together and letting the golden child birth in us that trifold nature of what we are as soul. We're still waking up to that. But when he's talking about when you're playing small and you believe death is real, you're playing small, brothers and sisters. Death is just but a thing. It's a transition into a greater expression. We do not fear death, and so therefore we are not controlled by the death sayers, by those programming you to fear death. You can't control somebody who's not afraid to die.
Right.
Jesus taught us when death loses its sting, like there's no controllable nature on fear of death. So when you wake up to that, you know that that's the truth of who and what I am. I know the truth. So to desert truth in the hour of need, which we need you who are listening, we as a community, as humanity, need you to stay in the truth of what you are, no matter what, no matter who. To desert the truth in the hour of need is to prove that you do not know the truth, is what Ernest Holmes said. You just didn't know it. You didn't embody it. You didn't integrate it yet. Because to desert that is to show that you don't know it. He says, and goes on to say, the one who can throw himself with complete abandonment into the sea of receptivity, cutting loose of all moorings, your anchors to the known, is the one who will receive the greatest reward. And that's what we have found in this time of transition, this time of awakening, this time of global crisis. We have found great reward. It hasn't been without its challenges and losses. We've all experienced loss. We've all had the grief and the trauma of loss of life, of loss of community, of loss of friends.
Yeah, totally.
And
it's been really powerful though, because I think in the midst of, as we were just listening to something else, it's these places where trauma or a cataclysmic event in our life really allows us, it pushes us to ask questions that we never would ask when we're comfortable. And so this, the intensity that we're experiencing with so many people coming to an edge of who they thought they were and beginning to ask bigger questions about what's going on is really a divine gift. And I think to have conversations where we're willing to ask questions, willing to be wrong, willing to see it differently. That was, I think, early on in this whole thing. We looked at each other and were like, oh my gosh, things are very different than we were thinking they were last week. And we continue to ask ourselves, not tying ourselves to any particular perception. And I think that's what he's saying here is don't be attached to what you think you are seeing. And even when you're having an experience, there is value in learning to be neutral about the experience and not identify with the experience itself. Don't identify with the thoughts you have about it. We're literally taking back our power by decreasing the addiction that we have to knowing how things are. And that's a messy process sometimes because we've got so many I am a this, and I love that he said that. As soon as we go, I am a this, we've just limited ourselves.
Yeah. It's just almost done here. A minute left.
So we are creating our own reality all the time by our perception becoming our experience. It's why we need a revolution of perception. And this is why the cult works 24/7, controlling the information that we receive, and the excuse for an education system that we are told it is, when it's an indoctrination machine, a perception programming machine. They are working all the time to uphold our perceptual state in a low vibrational, low awareness, low self-identity state, because they know that if they can control our perception, they can control our experience. And we can take that control back whenever we choose. And when we do, people are going to be shocked at how their life will change and how all the consequences they thought would happen don't actually happen.
That's a big lesson too.
I was asked by a dear friend, spiritual friend, a mentor, back when this began, why are you doing what you're doing? And when you go to a place And I was sharing this with a brother yesterday. When you go past the confines of the collective consciousness, the collective consensus of what's normal, and you go past, whatever it be, here's their safety zone, and you go past that threshold, you can't go back. You've expanded. The Odyssey, the Iliad. You understand, when you go on those journeys, those spiritual journeys that you go to, whether you did plant medicine, whether you sought, you had Satori and meditation, and trust me, there's no arrival, but there's this place when you expand and you expand and you expand, you can't go back. You can't go back to sleep. You can't go back to not knowing. You can't go back to not seeing. And so in my journey personally, when I woke up, especially on 9/11, understanding really what was going on, what's been happening on this planet, behind the scenes, in the secret, in the hidden shadows. The shadow government. There's a shadowy, and it's shadows. And again, and this has been what we talked about, and Heather mentioned it, like a lot of our work is not dealing with the shadows in the cave, as Plato. We're dealing with the shadows within.
Yes.
And as we deal with the shadows within,
Yes.
and that's what Heather was mentioning again, we've found and observed that a lot of people who do the inner work, sincere inner self work, who are honest with themselves and honest with a partner or honest with their community, and not hiding behind masks of stuff that's just not being honest and integrous. We have to integrate all aspects of ourselves, and not to shame ourselves,
Right.
and not to fault others.
Right.
But when you come in to own your own shit, and you own your own wounds and traumas and places where the occult hostile forces, as we talk a lot about with Bernhard and Lauren, we talk about this place where there are forces that are getting inside your heart and your mind, and you're thinking it's you. There's infestation happening. Paul Levy talks about the Wetiko mind virus. There is a virus that is inhabiting the minds of our friends, our family, our communities, our planet.
But there are beliefs, the way that we've hooked because of our patterning on our beliefs, and I just unpacking why you're saying it's not us. It is us, and it's not us.
Your infestation.
Yeah.
There's an infestation happening, and this is a whole nother video for a whole nother time, but understanding, and this is that fine line. We talk about, unity and not looking at evil and not looking at the bad and only focusing on the light and focusing on what is true and what is good and what is holy. Yes, and when you're infested with parasites, bacteria, candida, or if your home is infested with parasites, maybe you got a dog or a cat that's got a lot of fleas, right? You don't let the cat or the dog or your home stay infested with fleas. You don't sit there and go, oh, kumbaya, flea, come hang out, come bite on me. Great, I love that. No, you don't, right? You go take action. You take divinely guided action to what? Eradicate, to eliminate, to renunciate what is no longer serving the health of the organism and the mind and that in the collective. So it's important that we stay awake and aware to the parasitical nature of the things of the cult, as David was talking about, to suck on, to extract from, to kill, to dominate. That you be aware of it and you take guided action inside yourself to eradicate the parasitical nature of your own being, your own shadowy nature. And that's the crux of our work and the crux of the people that we're around that are being honest with themselves and doing their best to integrate.
Yeah. This is where relationship is really important, and community. I read something yesterday, and we're experiencing this in the physical, that this whole experience, I think, is catalyzing us to get into physical community with like-minded people, wherever you are. But it's a way to really lift our hearts and our minds and remind each other of the truth and pull each other higher. But the work that we do in our relationship, if you want to see what's going on inside of you and where love is being resisted or it not being extended from you, look at your relationships. If you really want to have a gauge on the way out of feeling tyrannized by the outer world or in fear of the outer world for any reason, whether you're in fear over, the medical things or what might be happening from the government, just you can bring it right home. And there's a way through, and that is take a look at your relationships. How are you communicating with each other? What secrets are still, present? Ask yourself, where do I have masks that I don't even see? What lies am I telling myself that I'm not even aware of? What beliefs have I just maintained that I can't see are causing me problems? And the more that we're willing to do that, especially with another person, whether it's your partner or a friend, you can begin to see that energy that you had of, disempowerment, giving your power over to something outside of you, will slowly be reclaimed. And the peace that begins to come, you start to see how can I move to find solutions for how I'm experiencing this whole thing.
I was just playing with my band here. This is a band I have. It's Sanskrit, and it says Om Namah Shivaya. In Sanskrit's backwards to you, but it's a bunch of symbols and things. You probably can't even read it anyway. So I was thinking of what we've come to understand, Shiva. And the Shiva I. The Shiva I, he was asked, by Mother, like, I will come in and I will take on your Maya, but allow me to see through the Maya.
Right.
Allow me to
Right.
see. I will go in the density of this karma. This karmic debris that we're dwelling in, but help me to see through the Maya, your illusion, the samsara. How can we see through this and navigate through this? And so, as a soul, myself as a soul, may my eye be open, may my eye be single to see through this. Because we're an evolutionary impulse family. We're going through this time of transition, this time of awakening. We're going through it. And what happened on 9/9 with Biden, I believe, is catalyzing a revolution. And so God has always given me a vision that during the time, it was a movie called Fearless with Jeff Daniels and Rosie Perez, and it's called Fearless. It's an incredible movie, but in it, he was on a plane that was crashing, and in it he was terrified of flying. But in that moment, when that plane was going down, something shifted inside him and became this calming presence when everybody was screaming because they were fearing death. And so God gave me a vision that when everybody's screaming and horrified of dying, that I would be a voice of calm. And so God gave me a vision to just click live today and come with my beloved and come to be a voice of calm, of a revolution. There's a revolution happening, and it's a revolution of perception. And so may you see through the illusions, There are differences between magicians and illusionists. Magician is somebody who understands the laws of the universe and can use them in a constructive way. There are dark magicians. They abuse magic. Magic is not bad. But understanding how to navigate through this time and peel the veil away, disengage, from the programming, and understand that a lot of us have been programmed. Here's the thing. People die every year. Millions die from pneumonia every year. Millions, I heard it said yesterday, we've said this before, millions die of diabetes and heart failure. But they're not taking away Cokes and hamburgers from McDonald's. They're not banning those.
Or cigarettes.
Death is part of this journey. You're not promised no death. You are promised a death. Everybody goes through that.
And taxes.
And taxes.
Death and taxes. Two things are certain.
How you learn to embrace death and taxes determines your joy, determines your life. But when they're programming you to fear something, it's time to have a revolution of perception. And I believe it's happening. I believe that what happened on 9/9, we have 9 people watching right now. On 9/9, something shifted. Not only the Matrix 4 Resurrections come launching, but there was a interesting Todd Tina. Fuck taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. I said that for a long time, brother. I have had a shift, a revolution of perception.
Yeah.
That
we understand.
Yeah, that's a whole nother journey. We've taken a dive in our money, in our relationship with taxes, and because I've been saying, read between the lines, IRS. I'm a Robin Hood of sorts, and I don't like when King John takes from the people, which is nonetheless we're gonna play the game. Robert Kiyosaki, cash flow. That's all I'll say. Just understand how you can navigate this game, because
it's just a game.
It's a fucking game. And how you play the game determines the results and determines the gifts that
we want to be masters of this game, man.
That's our intention.
We came together, and there were 3 things that there were 2 gateways that we knew that we would walk through together. One was clearing the sexual distortions, clearing our addictive behaviors and our distortions and our all the trauma around sexuality, and the other one was money. The no fear of money. It's like this is a deep, deep, deep wound for so many of us who have been on this, developing our spirituality, developing our relationships, and now it's coming physical. The other 2 legs of the table, the other 2 pillars, the finances and the body. It's all, if it doesn't play out through the body and our ability to manipulate in a healthy way this game, we can still grow. We're always able to still grow.
So again, if you're just getting here, just go back. We played 5-minute video of David Icke talking about a revolution that will change everything. It's a revolution of perception. And not just a revolution of perception out there. What are we going to see? UFOs or what's really going on in the cabal and the deep state and the pedophiles and the sex trafficking and the satanic ritual and all that stuff. Not saying that's not going on, and not to say that most of the collective may see that and be horrified, and yes, it is that. But what we really want to talk about is the revolution of perception of who and what you truly are. And when you know who you are, the controller mechanisms don't have power over you. You're not moved, you're not swayed by that. You remember that I am the victorious presence of Christ as I am. I am the victorious presence of Christ I am. Say that to yourself. Say that with us. I am the victorious Christ presence that I am. And when you know that you're the immortal soul, what are you going to take? What are you going to, what are you going to take? How are you going to control that? You can't. And they want to make you play small. They want to program you to be in fear. And I say they, it's the controllers of propaganda, the mainstream media news, and all that stuff that's going on, the collective programming that's been going on for a very long, long time. And so humanity's waking up. So we honor the fallen on this 9/11 day.
Yes.
We honor the front lines that were there. And we honor this day 20 years today. But what's happened in these 20 years, I know for me in this great awakening, to remember that I am the presence of love. And when I'm in that presence, and I'm in that vibration, magic, miracles, and manifestations happen all the time. The right people, the right places, the right circumstances align in that frequency bandwidth. And so we, the few, the many, however it is, we're here. And we love you, and I believe my beloved's got a song for us.
We are the change. We are the liberation, and we're the revelation of love. Like we've known this was coming, but this is our song. We are the 7th generation, the long-awaited revelation. We are the rainbow family. By divine grace, we are unity. We are the calming of the waters, blessing all the sons and daughters. We are the change. the liberation. We are the holy revelation. We are the starry universe. We are the body of our Mother Earth, the light of Father Sky above, the descending of the peaceful dove. We are the glowing sacred people's fire. We have been tested and are purified. We are the change, the liberation. We are the holy revelation. We are the change, the liberation. We are the holy revelation. May the truth be seen in everything. Let the walls fall down within and without.
Yes,
If the eye be single, the body full of light. As we rise,
let's rise.
and we rise,
Let's rise. Sing it with us. Come on now.
Oh, we are the change,
The liberation. We are the holy revelation. We are the change, the liberation. We are the holy revelation. We are the change, the liberation. We are the holy revelation. We are the change, the liberation. We are the holy revelation. We call upon the grace that walks us through the storm. We are the revelation. You are the revelation. Just keep right there. I want to invite you into a place of prayer in this now moment. We're going to seal this time in just gratitude for the presence of God that dwells within and without. There is a mighty power. There is a presence, a gift of solitude, a gift of peace, a gift of power, a gift of wisdom that dwells within the very essence of our being. It's been called many things: the threefold flame, the Holy Spirit, the Christ, the Buddha, the mind, the universal spirit, the all that is that never was. We call it God. God is here. God is now. God is with us, as us, expanding, evolving, purifying, alchemizing, guiding, providing everything that we need and desire for a good God life. And so what I know is that every single heart that hears my voice in this prayer is protected. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, David said in the book of Psalms, though I walk through the valley of a discord tone, I understand that there's something within me, something within you, guiding you, guarding you. And we call this love. And so what we know in every cell of your being, and as you're saying yes and you expand and you rise and you expand and you rise, and your whole DNA starts to expand to receive more intelligence, more light, more love. You become a container as we expand into trust. And so what I know is that as we press forward on this planet, there is something happening. God's plan is being fulfilled on earth as it is in heaven. I know this. I allow this to be the truth of our life. And if you're open to that, you allow that to reveal to you. And when we're in that place of trust, when we're in that place of peace, that all is well, no matter what, that's the truth. We are guided every step of the way for our perfect health, for our perfect abundance, for that relationship, for that purpose in life. And I know that we have the power to get through everything. And so, not saying that we won't be fearful, but we'll be courageous because we know who we are and we know who walks with us. There are mighty forces, there are mighty angels, there are mighty legions of intelligences, whatever you want to call them. Benevolent occult forces that are walking with us, through us, as us, communing with us. Not saying there's a power outside of us, but saying there's a power outside of you. You are the power, and there is something greater without you that is whispering to you, nudging you. And so we let this time, this transmission of love from our hearts, from the powers of love, Jason Michael Have Grace Powers, to your heart, thanking you for being here. Thank you, Michael Fox. Love you, brother.
Love you, brother.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Jacqueline, Satina,
Paul.
all of you.
Yeah.
You know, and if you feel like this has supported you, share it. You know, that's the way to pay it forward. Just share it with somebody that you love. And if you're in the local area here in Ventura County, every 2 weeks we meet. It's called Soul Sanctuary, S-O-L. We meet in a park. We bring some food. We bring some guitars, some drums.
Amazing community.
Yeah.
Like-hearted. If you want information about it, just
We're taking it from the
us
virtual
and-
world into the
yeah.
physical world, and boots on the ground, and where that you can feel safe to be yourself. It's a very loving group, and because we operate at that frequency of pure love, we're protected. So those of you that are going, oh my God, be careful. That's okay. We're good. All right. We love you. Have a great 9/11. Thank you for being here on this planet and this time.